Today, we're going to talk about mindset. To an empowered way of thinking is going to change your life. And often this is the hardest part of the journey, is just getting started. Just believing even that little glimmer of hope is so important for you to turn your diagnosis around. And most people start with diet, and that's fantastic and that's vital. But if your mindset is stuck into that incurable state of healing, your cells are listening. If you don't know me, my name's Adrienne Charlie. I'm a nutritionist. I'm an integrative nutritional health coach, author, and speaker. I help people reverse their MS diagnosis. And I'm also certified in this because I healed my own MS diagnosis over 10 years ago, and I've been symptom-free ever since. And if you're interested in taking my 12-week program, because I help people reverse their MS all the time, and it's affordable. So just reach out at info@nourishyourway.com, and you can decide if I'm the right fit for you or not. But anyway, let's get into today's topic. And this is changing your mindset to at least hope. Let's get to hope first. And then eventually you're going to get to knowing, because when you take my 12-week program, you will notice small changes and improvements along the way. And then you're going to figure out, oh my God, this is working. So I've interviewed over 10 people. This is about 3 years ago now, because I wanted to write a book on others who reversed their diagnosis. And I wanted to get proof for people knowing that they can do this. And guess what? Their number one belief was, after they figured out that they could heal, they stopped believing the lie that they were powerless in their healing journey. But I want to talk about our Western medical gap. I want to talk about our doctors. I want to explain how doctors are trained. And this is unfortunate. And most doctors get either very little or no education at all in diet, nutrition, or healthy lifestyle practices. Doctors usually get into the medical field because they want to help people. And what I'm also going to talk to you about today is not only your mindset, but your thoughts and your emotions, and how this affects your diagnosis as well. And doctors aren't trained in this either. So the doctor's toolbox is built for disease management. This is what they're trained to do. They're trained to prescribe the medication or the drugs. And this is what the schools tell them to do. And so they're getting less than usually 20 hours of diet and nutrition into their medical training. But here's what's interesting is a lot of these doctors are getting frustrated because they keep saying the same patients over and over and over again, and they're not showing much improvements. And so many of these doctors are going into holistic health or functional medicine because they're getting burnt out and they're tired of not seeing the patients getting results. And remember, I've lived this. I reversed my diagnosis holistically without medication at all. And I'm here to tell you that what doctors think is impossible is simply unexplored by mainstream medicine. So now I want to talk about the biological conflict. And we can't heal when we're in fight or flight mode, when we have negative emotions. So if you're living in hopelessness, fear, or despair, you're living in that sympathetic mode. And healing only happens when you're in that parasympathetic state, and that's rest and digest. And I also call that when you're in a state of feelings of hope or joy or gratefulness, or any positive feelings that you mostly have, right? I mean, we're all going to have negative emotions once in a while, but I don't want you to stay there. I want you to get out of those negative emotions and really try to get into the parasympathetic mode or state, because this is what you want and this is going to help you heal. And there's scientific evidence in this. And if you don't know Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about the placebo and the nocebo effect. So he wrote a book called You Are the Placebo. In his documents and in his book, he talks about how thoughts alone can trigger the release of healing neuropeptides in the brain or toxic stress hormones. I also want to talk about psychoneuroimmunology. And this is the study of how your mind affects the immune system. So you could pick up a book by Dr. Gabor Mate. It's called When the Body Says No. He explores how suppressed emotions or chronic stress, often from people pleasing or past traumas, can manifest into autoimmune diseases. You can also look up an individual. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn. She's a Nobel Prize winner, and she studied telomeres. In her research, she showed that chronic stress and negative mindsets actually shorten telomeres. This is the caps on our DNA, and this is what can accelerate disease and aging. But here's a book that's really mind-blowing to me. It's called Radical Remission by Dr. Kelly Turner. Now, this is not about MS people or patients. It's about people with cancer. And the concepts are the same. It doesn't matter what kind of disease you have, but I want to explain what she has in her book. She studied hundreds of people around the world who were diagnosed with cancer, who actually had a radical remission. And she wanted to know why. And so after interviewing all of these people, she came up with 9 different key factors that all these people had in common. And this is the same kind of concepts that I'd like you to have and learn from when you're dealing with your MS diagnosis, because you can heal. You just need to know how. And sometimes you need proof. So I'm going to give you proof. And at the end of my message, I'm going to be giving you lots of books that you can pick up. I'm going to be going over the 9 key factors that Kelly Turner found in most of these patients. So number 1, diet. She found that most of these people that healed were eating a diet of whole foods, and these people stopped the refined foods or processed foods and gave their bodies an environment to thrive in, which reduced inflammation, and they starved the disease based on what they were eating. So number 2, all these people took control of their health. So these survivors stopped being passive patients. They did their own research, they asked questions, and they became the CEO of their own body. They became really curious and really researched what they had to do rather than just taking orders from the doctor. Number 3, they followed their own intuition. They took a dive into themselves and figured out what was their intuition saying. What foods did they really feel that they needed? What kind of change in environment did they need? What kind of things did they explore to find joy and happiness in their healing? They learned to trust their inner voice. Number 4, the power of herbs and supplements. Since mainstream medicine often ignores nature, they turn to supplements and learning what kinds of nutrients their bodies needed and what they needed to detox out of their bodies to become healthy again. So number 5, releasing suppressed emotions. So many of them also found that any past traumas or any resentments or any feelings of unforgiveness was trapped in their bodies. And so they learned that emotionally, they had to release a lot of these. And so by doing this, they shifted to a toxic emotional way of feeling to a happier, empowered way of feeling. So they just raise their vibrations to feelings of more joy, laughter, and happiness. So number 6 is really part of what I just told you. Increasing positive emotions. It's not enough just to remove the bad. You have to start flooding your body with good and positive emotions. So survivors put a priority on feeling, and they called it vitamin L for love or vitamin J for joy. And they actively sought out laughter and happiness, which triggers the release of dopamine and oxytocin. And these are the body's natural healing chemicals. So number 7, embracing social support. So healing is not a solo sport. You really need positive and compassionate people who also know that you can heal, who will support your healing. And these were people, they surrounded themselves instead of people who gave them pity or saw their identity as a sick person. So these kind of people were the majority of the commonality of the people they surrounded themselves with. And number 8 is deepening your spiritual connection. And this kind of touches on my quantum, or sometimes I call it woo-woo. So whether it was prayer or connection to the universe or God or whatever you believe in that's outside yourself, connecting to this energy, to something that's more higher and more powerful than themselves, was another connection that Dr. Turner found in her study. So these people found a higher spiritual connection. And number 9, these people found a big reason to heal. They had a strong passion as to what their why was. Why did they want to heal? Well, most of them had family and friends and lots that they still needed to do in the world. And they had lots of living to do still. So the sense of purpose gave them a sense of will or power to get better. And their will to live kept their immune system in the fighting mode. And you've got to know that you're not alone. Thousands of other people have done this. But now let's talk a little bit more about the woo-woo side. And remember, yesterday's magic is today's science. And this is in the quantum field. In quantum mechanics, the observer influences the behavior of subatomic particles. What does that mean? So if you observe the body as sick and failing, you are collapsing that quantum field into reality. I'm going to talk about frequency matching. The universe works in vibration. So if your dominant vibration is fear, you attract more experiences that validate that fear. I want you to start using daydreaming as medicine. When you visualize healing with a joyful anticipation, you're sending a new signal to your cells. You're literally tuning your body into a future that you have not experienced yet. But your body doesn't know the difference between what you're thinking and what is actually happening. So I want to tell you that if you've got the perfect diet and you're eating with any resentment or fear, your body can't fully utilize those nutrients to help you heal. I want you to audit your diagnosis. And I also want you to stop saying, my MS. This isn't yours. It's a temporary visitor that's going to be gone. This is how I want you to think. And then I want you to move from hoping to knowing. I want you to use those 10 plus stories in my book if you need evidence that healing is indeed possible. And I want you to start using gratitude and finding other areas of evidence that shows you that healing is possible. Once you start feeling gratitude, your healing is going to be on a jump start, and you're going to heal maybe even more quickly than you thought possible. Now, it also depends what stage you're in, right? So if you're in a wheelchair and you're having some mobility issues, you know it's going to take you a little bit longer, and that's okay. But be patient with yourself. Somebody who does not have walking issues, maybe they have some other symptoms, they're probably going to heal much more quickly. But no matter where you are, I want you to know that when you change your thoughts, you change your habits, you're going to change your outcome and you're going to change your life. So I'm going to remind you of a few books to pick up if this is of interest to you today. So book number 1, You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza. Book number 2, When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate. Here's another one by Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. You might want to pick that one up. And then Radical Remission by Dr. Kelly Turner. And then if you want real life stories of people with MS who turn their life around, and there's also 12 chapters of different healing modalities, you can pick up my book. It's called The Path to Reverse Multiple Sclerosis Naturally, and you can get this on Amazon. So remember, your diagnosis is a description of your past diagnosis. I want you to start thinking this way. It's not a prophecy for the future. I want you to change the frequency of your mind, raise your vibration to thoughts of healing. And in this case, your mind and body have no choice to follow. You will hear me in the near future on the next podcast or message. Thank you for listening.